Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Helene Kopel, TrackSmart Product Manager. Joining me later for our Q&A session will be Ryan Marcoux, one of the TrackSmart gurus around here. So before we get started, let's take care of a few house notes. First, a link to a recording of the webinar will be sent to all participants after the webcast and be made available on demand through the support site. Secondly, we'll have our Q&A session at the end of the presentation, so please take advantage of the chat feature to submit questions, and we'll do our best to answer as many as possible in the time remaining. If we don't get to your question during the webinar, we'll do our best to follow up by email as soon as possible. Now, back to the topic at hand. While TrackSmart is pretty easy to use, we know there are a lot of features at your disposal which may be overwhelming when you're new. So we wanted to show you the quickest way to get started tracking your employee attendance. So on with the show. Okay, we kind of summarized this as you've really just got 3 easy steps to getting started. Add your employees to TrackSmart, invite them to use self-service, and start tracking. Okay, to add your employees, you'll see when you first sign up for your free trial, you're sent to this Getting Started page. You'll see right in the middle, grab my trusty, here we go. Right in the middle here, it'll show you Add Employee Profiles. That's a link that will take you to the profiles. If you've passed the point of getting started and you log in to the dashboard, on the right, you'll see there's a Quick Links menu, Add a New Employee. Or from anywhere, you can navigate to employees from the top menu. You go there from the top menu, you'll head to the directory where your full list of employees appears. To add a new employee, click Add an Employee. Okay, so from the start, you've already been set up as your first employee. Your name will appear on the list. Notice that you are now in Profiles, where you can fill it out, and the only required fields are first name and last name. Now, little side note that if you want to use that self-service, email address is also a required field, so they have an email to log in with, and that will be found on the Contact tab, that information. So you'll see you've got additional tabs for a full paperless record-keeping solution as well. There's a little bonus to the time and attendance is you can keep your employee records in here, a lot more information as well. That's how you add an employee one at a time. Let me show you here. Here you will see in the Contact tab of the Employee Profiles where you would put the email address. Again, that's the only field you'll need for self-service to be set up, and we'll set up their permissions. Let me move on. Okay. Here's another note. If you would like your supervisors, which you should, if you would like your supervisors to manage employee time off requests, approving those requests, declining them, approving timesheets, then that person also has to be designated as a supervisor and have employees reporting to them, which you'll see over here. This is found in the Job Details tab. And we had a question come up on a previous webinar, does it make sense to set up your supervisors first? Absolutely. Because as you go through it and you'll set up your employees after that, rather than pulling in employees to the supervisor, when you set up the employee, you can just grab the supervisor in the Supervised By drop list. You will have pre-populated this list of supervisors just by checking off supervisor on the employee tab. on the employee's job detail tab. There is another option, and that is import your employees. And Meeking, I already see that there had been a question related to this. Yes, you can import your employees from the start. What you would do is download our template, which is Excel, save the information, so you can copy and paste from any other software or Excel list you have for your employees. Then you would upload it. And if you're doing this later where you've already added some employees, you can decide whether or not you want to just update the information on the existing one or override. Let me show you what that looks like. When you're importing your employees, the spreadsheet has all of this information available for you to upload, all of this employee data. And at the top of many of these columns, you'll see a little red dot, which is a note, a comment. If you're familiar with Excel, you can put comments in there. Read the comments. You'll see here we give you explicit direction on what should appear in this field. For example, in payroll status, it has to be salary, hourly, or commission. Those are your options, and you have to match the spelling. Otherwise, you're going to end up with an error on upload. So pay attention to those column headers for instruction. But the only fields you need in this import are first name, last name, and this time email address. Because the email address becomes a unique identifier for this employee. It lets us know whether this is a duplicate. They'll try to match it to another email address that you've already entered to discover whether it's a duplicate or not, and whether you want to update that person with the rest of the information you have on your spreadsheet. Okay, but in that import, you're not going to be able to set up permissions. You would go back into the profiles. You can create a group. The employee self-service permission they're found in the Permissions tab of that employee profile. But we have also set up your accounts with a couple of default groups. Because you can also go to Self-Service Permissions from the top menu and set up groups. If you have certain groups of employees that will all have the same permissions, it'll be much easier for you to create a group and assign them to the employees rather than pick and choose for each individual one. In this example, you'll see custom, as if for this employee, I picked and chose specific ones. Now, the ones we set up for you, the defaults are all access employees, all access supervisors, meaning if you are an employee, you have this first set all selected yes. So from this drop-down, you would select employee all access. If this person's a supervisor, select supervisor all access, and they will get all of these permissions as well as all the supervisor permissions to approve. So you can now click, first time out, if you're not just changing somebody's permissions, but this is the first time, you would click Send Invitation. When you send the invitation, this should save the information as well. If you just want to save it and take care of that later, you can just save, or if you're updating, save. Send Invitation will save it and send an invitation to your employees. It looks a little something like this. You get an email, welcomes them. It lists everything they have permission to do. If they can submit a time off request, timesheet, change their contact information, view the company calendar, view a schedule of who's out. And by the way, you should really let them have the ability to view the company calendar. It'll make it a lot easier to prevent them from requesting time off when they know already that somebody else is out, when it's somebody they cannot both be out on the same day. So Supervisor permissions are listed here as well, and it tells them where to log in because employees do not log in the same place administrators do. They log in at employees.tracksmart.com. Tells them the email address they've been signed up with to log in with and their password, which they can change as soon as they log in. Never something easy to remember, of course. It also gives them links to download the mobile app. Our mobile apps are meant for your employees to do some quick tasks on the go, such as updating contact and emergency contact information, submitting a time off request, and submitting timesheets, or just keeping track. Every day they can just enter their hours for that day and save. By the way, I do want to give that caveat that timesheets and supervisor permission features are available with FlexTrack and PowerTrack plans. If you are on a CoreTrack plan, these won't apply for you. But if you do want to upgrade and switch plans, just get in touch with us after. We'll be happy to help you out. Okay. So I'm a supervisor. What happens? I log in and I've got a dashboard. It lists who the employees are that are assigned to me. If I've got any time off requests pending, somebody submitted a request, I've got to take some action on it. Supervisor would have received a notification by email as well as the administrator. So both of you would get that notification. Lets them know if there's any timesheets that they need to approve. As an employee themselves, it lists how much time off they have used and available in their time off banks. There's a quickie button if they want to request time off, and it gives them a summary of any hours worked that week that they have entered into their timesheets. A quick link to go right into it and manage it if they want to submit their hours. Okay, here's where you start tracking. Click the attendance link in the top menu, and that'll take you to your calendar. Of course, from your dashboard, there is a quick link on the right, add a calendar entry. That'll get you quickly to the calendar as well. To add an absence or other event, you click on the specific day, double click on it, or you can click this icon at the top to create a new entry. You can look on the right here if you need to edit. The item will show up on your list and you can hit that edit icon. If you want to view absences only, you can deselect some of these filters over here. Or if you want to view just specific departments or employees, you can use this filter over here so that you're only looking at events or absences for a specific group of employees. When you hover over an item in the calendar, such as an absence, you will see the details. You don't have to click in to see it. Hover over and see the specifics of that event. Now, just be aware that your employees have a view of this calendar, but when they do, they cannot see somebody else's private notes and details. They will see that the person is out, but the absence reason is not shown to your employees in the employee self-service site. You don't have to worry about that confidentiality. So, go on. I want you to see when you do create an event, let's say you clicked on the icon. You have a calendar entry form. It's a bit dynamic based on who you select and the type of event. So you can select a single employee or you can select all employees. If you're wondering what all employees is for, that is when you want everybody to have the same event displayed on the calendar, or it applies to everyone, such as when the company is closed or a company holiday. So for an employee, you would select the employee's name from the first list, select your absence or event code from the reason field, choose the dates that this is applying to. Bear in mind, in this hours field, we are pre-populating it. We've given you some default hours in a day, but you can go to your preferences later and change that if necessary. But once you select, if you select 1 or 2 days in this range, it's going to calculate. So if I've selected 2 days, it's going to say 18 hours. But if somebody's taking a vacation that overlaps a weekend and you're not going to deduct time off for the weekend, this will automatically go to 32 hours, but you're going to want to override that and type in 16 instead, for example. Here's where you would select the time off bank. You each have 4 sets of time off. You have 4 time off banks that you can make use of. I know for us at our company, we just use PTO. Everything is tracked under PTO. So you would make sure you select the bank you want the hours deducted from. If you do not want to deduct hours, they're taking time off, but you're not taking it out of the bank, there is a selection that says do not deduct. This notes whether the absence was approved or not. This is good for your record keeping so that when you run reports later, you could say, you know that Joe Smith has been a no-show. He did not get this absence approved, and he didn't show up, and you want to see how many times he's done this. This is great for supporting any absence-related terminations or discipline. Here we give you a free field, an optional field, if you want to just put some notes down about that absence. Here's an example, by the way, of that all employees. In this case, I'm showing you that I've selected all employees, and it's a company holiday. Here, it will give you the option to add hours to the timesheet. So, when we close for holidays and the employees are still paid and it's not PTO deducted, and you are using the timesheet feature, you can add the hours to make sure it's calculated for your payroll reports. If there's any notes you may want to add. Other events won't track hours. You can add a birthday event, you can add an anniversary event, performance review, just to keep track of those special days, a conference, your certification expires. You can go through the list in your account and check out what you've got. So here's where I'm just mentioning, those are the quick steps to getting started tracking, but I want to show you that you have this preferences item in the top. This is where you can set up and customize to fit your company. It's where you can pick, let's say you don't want to use every code, and every time you select reason, your drop-down list is a mile long, you really only have a certain amount of codes your business uses, you can turn them off. Here I'm showing the example of where we talked about how we track time off. Maybe your business doesn't track hours and says a person can take 10 days off versus 80 hours off. You can switch your settings to display in days versus hours. And that default I was showing you in the entry form, you can say the default hours in a day is 10 hours, not 8, and your part-time default. This is also where you will set up your time off plans, however your business accrues time off. Walk through that process. It's pretty simple and gives you a lot of flexibility in how your employees will earn time off. And there are timesheet settings as well for where overtime kicks in, or what's the first day of your work week. Okay, we also want to remind you that we are here for you. We've got this feedback tab on the right. If you click that, you'll get this pop-up, how can we help you? There are a lot of questions that have already been answered. Once you type it in, it's going to try to find a match, and then you'll have an option. If you don't see what you're looking for, you can just send us a question straight through here. You also have the support link at the top, in the top menu, that will take you right over to that knowledge base and to the customer community where you can give us product ideas. If there's something you feel would help you that TrackSmart doesn't feature today, let us know. We've got an idea bank. The majority of the features developed on TrackSmart came from our customers, believe it or not. So here, I think I repeated myself. We also have these on-demand webinars. You have the whole, when you click through support, you have a whole help center with questions, how-tos, questions that have been asked before, product ideas, common answers to common questions, some videos. There's a lot of stuff in there.